here. There you go. Have a good meeting.
Thank you. Okay, we got everybody.
I hope so.
All right. Good evening and welcome to the October 7th Scituate Conservation Commission hearing meeting tonight. A couple of quick things to read before we launch into this. This meeting's being held virtual as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the Town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. And Town of Scituate Conservation Commission is committed to providing an environment of respect during meetings. We ask all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there's disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcome and respected. And we ask our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards and to support and respect the community. Okay, with that said, we have an agenda. I'd like to add a couple of things. First off, I'm going to let folks know that there's going to be two hearings that are going to be continued when their time comes. We're going to be continuing 201, 218 First Parish Road. And we're also going to be continuing
9 Collier.
9 Collier Road. So just if anybody's on for those, when we get to them, we'll state the time that they're continued to, but just so you're aware, those will be continued. I would like to add a couple of things to the agenda. I think there's some little discussion about maybe open space, the town forest, Scout project, and also Appleton Field, discussion about some use up there. So we could add those couple of things. Does anybody else want to add anything to the agenda?
Maybe certificate of compliance discussion.
Okay. Great. Okay. So those will be added. So can I get a motion to accept the agenda with those changes? And it's only Richard, Brendan, and Eric, and myself.
Yep.
So
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
thank you, Richard. Gentlemen,
I'll second that.
thanks, Brendan. All in favor? Actually, it's just Eric
Yes.
and Frank. Yes, thank you. Okay. 279 Gannett Road. This has been continued a couple of times. Do we have I guess Grady?
Yes, we have their engineer on. We received a revised plan. I did talk to Devin from Lucas Environmental today, so we're okay with the riverfront requirements. We had a couple questions about the land subject to coastal storm flowage. Can we scroll down to the next one? Yeah, I think that one's easier to see. And how that would be calculated, how we would put it on the form, on the order of conditions form. And where there is some work proposed on the wall of moving some rocks back in place. That was just another piece that we wanted to make sure we had properly conditioned. But I say all of that, I'll let Darren talk to this version of the plan.
Sure. We had another letter from Lucas Environmental to with regards to the plan in front of you. I'll kind of just brief you on go over generally what the comments were. We were asked to look at the coastal bank. We were asked to look at the guidance 92-1. And we were using the incorrect line before. And the coastal bank did change. As you can see, it did come up to the north of the house, but didn't impact the did not impact the buffer areas or to the proposed project as far as the construction of the or reconstruction of the house. Let's see, I added cross sections and a profile to sheet 3 for that, and I also added a slope analysis to the existing conditions sheet, so you can clearly see those slopes that were less than 10% and greater than 10%. We're asked to clarify land subject to coastal storm flowage. And I did add some cumulative numbers in my narrative, and I asked, well, I think 0 is the appropriate number on the form because we're taking a house that's non-compliant out of the flood zone. So that volume there is a lot more than a compliant house that what the proposed is. The proposed house does have flood vents. It is raised above the flood zone, unlike the previous house. So I think it's basically the volume of or the square footage of the foundation itself for the new house versus the old house, which the old house is much bigger when you include the entire footprint. We're asked to clarify the repair of the wall. And basically, one of the comments that was in there was that the wall was encroaching on the salt marsh. Basically, the intent of this is to remove the encroachment, which is the rocks that might have been falling off the wall. If the if they do need to go back up on the wall, we put them back up and we'll make sure they're secure. If they just need to be removed, we will remove them. We moved the stockpile area from the south side of the driveway to the north side of the driveway. We added a mitigation area there for the removal of invasives. Also added was a description of how you do that in the operation and maintenance manual. The rest of the comments are kind of just really small stuff like adding 2-inch caliper just DBM trees to the plan, adding additional buffer lines. We changed the table. The total mitigation on there is 2,560 square feet, and this meets the 2-to-1 ratio for the newly degraded area. Thinking for most part, that's all the changes. Everything else was very minor. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Richard, do you want to go first?
Don't you want Jen to talk? Don't you want Jen to
What?
talk first?
Oh, I thought she did. Jen, you want to add to that?
I guess I really do want to hear people's questions. I think most of what I was thinking was in the order of conditions as far as the project was concerned.
Okay.
Well, then I will say that from what I can see, and it's a little hard for me to read this on the screen, but it appears that most of the things we'd asked them to do, they've done pretty well. And for that, I will hold any more comments for now.
Oh, you got time. It's only a few of us, so
I know.
we'll circle around. Brendan?
Hope if I was off mute. I don't really have a comment right now, a question.
Okay. Eric?
I suppose just the comment of, I just appreciate the changes to the plan, and to the, discussion and the comments of the submittal response. And particularly to sensitivity of trying to contain and eradicate the knotweed in potentially disturbed area, and mitigate any potential spread of that knotweed, across the site or into the marsh. So I think looks good.
Okay. Couple of questions. Some of them are simple. Along the edge of the bank, there's there's the wall, which is in various states of condition. Some of it's better than others, and I think there's a question about doing some repair work to that, but I'm not sure that that's shown in any great detail. Am I missing something? Is that just the request to repair it? And is there,
So the comment we're trying to address was the encroachment on the salt marsh, and that got into the wall. Basically, we want to pick up the stones that are in the salt marsh and alleviate the concern about the so-called encroachment.
okay. Just wondering if we probably need a little bit more detail than that. When you're going along the wall, there's a little area that has some steps that go down into the marsh. That's going to be kept there? Is that
That's correct.
okay? So then if you go beyond that a little bit, the wall ends, and then there's a lot of gravel that's just sort of washing into the marsh. How's that going to be addressed?
Um, the gravel you're talking about, is that on top of the wall or is that the driveway? Because we are turning a lot of gravel
This
surfaces on this lot to lawn.
this is just beyond where someone had built like a little retaining wall for the property. It's kind of clear that maybe before the marsh actually came into that property a little bit further, and then in order to keep that from happening, someone actually built a wall right along that edge where the upland hits the marsh. So as you follow that going maybe south, south from that opening that I just asked about, the steps and brick,
Yes.
the wall ends, and right where that ends, there's gravel and earth that just go right into the marsh. It was like it's material that was up on the upland and it was just pushed over. So rather than have any sort of vegetated edge there, it's just gravel.
Is this in any of our mitigation areas? Because the mitigation areas are pretty much along the opening. It's the green area shown there, and then we have
It-
some trees down
It's
to
probably where
the.
the word salt marsh is, with a wetlands flag 100, A100. Um,
Hold on, I'm gonna just look at my plan real quick so I can see a little better. Wetland flag 100. Yeah, so the top, everything on top of that wall is going to be planted with landscaping. I think we at that point the clients would like to use these blue stems, so the area in here will be secured at some point while these are growing with either wood chips or some sort of mulch to hold that soil in there while the plants thrive.
Okay, maybe that just needs to continue in that area. There's a couple of spots. Obviously, people have done a lot of different things to this edge, and there's like I said, there's a couple of spots where they just kept pushing the gravel right over into the marsh, and it goes right down the slope and right to the marsh. So those are spots, along with maybe working on the wall, that could get detailed a little bit more, but something
I
that might
think
be in the orders.
I think that holds true to my client's intent here. They really like to clean that this area up. There was a lot of gravel surfaces that they wanted to turn to lawn and at least get some vegetation established.
Okay. Well, it's great. I mean, I think that what they're proposing is good, and I'm looking at this, and sometimes the devil's in the details a little bit, but how we just get that restored in a positive way is the goal. It seems like the goal of both of us, so that's great. Maybe we can figure out how to way to maybe a meeting with the agent or something to address a few of those areas could be part of the orders, or whatever. Quick small one I noticed. So there's a dilapidated shed to be removed. So it's EX dilapidated shed, removing that. So then, but then there's a square that says existing shed. So I don't remember there being two sheds there.
Yeah, they took down the dilapidated shed between when we surveyed it and when we met on site. I've kept the note on the plan. Maybe I shouldn't have, but when we surveyed it, that it was there. It was in
Yes.
worse condition than the current shed.
I would have thought that one was the dilapidated one. Darren,
Yes.
why are the lines the distance from the marsh to the far side of the shed as opposed to the edge of the shed that's closest to the marsh?
We were asked by I think we were trying to address a comment from Lucas on that. They really have very little significance. I think we're looking at the the what was closer, the stormwater management system or the gravel there or the existing gravel. I think that was the comment in the last peer review. So the existing gravel came out all the way. It's due east of the shed that's shown there to be retained. But it's a lot closer to the salt marsh than the stormwater system shown in gray on the other side of the shed. I believe that's what
I mean,
those
just most times when
dimensions.
when you give dimensions, you're giving it from the resource area. And I'm just surprised because that would mean it's less than 50 feet.
Um, so I agree with you. We were just asked to add those dimensions to the plan to prove that we were further away from the existing gravel area.
Hmm. Okay.
You need a little further explanation on that?
That just seemed odd. I mean, it is where it is if it's existing. Um,
Yeah, so we ended up putting a couple of dimensions here that didn't mean that weren't really relative. Like the two that you're seeing are to the stormwater system, and then there's another one that shows to the existing gravel. I think it's showing as 16.1 uh versus 66. I wasn't sure of the comment at the time because I thought it was clear that was definitely further away from than the existing gravel.
okay. Um, and is there any rhyme or reason to I'm just trying to figure out the shape of that. I guess that's that mitigation area along the edge of the driveway on the far side, with that sharp angle. Just trying to figure out what happens there.
Is that
Um,
on the
Sort
closer
of
to
it's
the
along
entrance?
the edge of the driveway.
Is that closer to Gannett Road?
Yeah,
So that's the invasives.
okay,
So we wanted to remove all the invasives within that area. They were
okay,
definitely prominent around the edge of the driveway. I
yep,
included that entire area just to make sure we're able to go through there and check and remove those.
okay. Um, that's about it for me. I think, Jen, do you want to add anything to these comments?
Um, well, I think so, yes, we would include in the orders, being able to work on the invasives, referencing the plans that were submitted. We would probably include a condition to want some more additional detail if any work is done on the wall. I know we've talked about removing the rocks, but just something to document what's happening when anybody's working in that area, if that sort of makes sense. And then I would say for the land subject to coastal storm flowage, the way we normally document that in the form is the area being disturbed for the project. I understand it's all a compliant building, but that would be how we put the number on the form. What else did you mentioned a few things. If we want to add anything about if they want to do more mitigation work on that, I don't know what to describe it as, the bottom part of the lot past where the wall ends, we could certainly add something in there if they want to add more vegetation. Is that what we're talking about?
I don't know that it's it's just hard to know exactly what will be done there. And I think it might be just something that, there might be a meeting between who's ever doing the work and the office to clarify that. I know that doesn't that still leaves things open-ended, but,
No, I agree. I think we have that in there, that before the mitigation work begins, assuming that's separate from the construction of the house, to do another pre-construction meeting.
just to
So-
be clear on a few of these areas or something would be a good
Right.
idea.
Yeah, so we
oh.
can have a chance to make a decision then.
I mean, obviously, they don't want to leave it real open-ended, or neither do we, but I mean, we have the areas that are going to get restored, and I think it's just kind of knocking that. But the wall, it seems like it would be more detrimental to be removing the wall.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
so just going to keep it in place, and maybe they can make some repairs, but sort of minimal disturbance in the marsh or in the trenches or whatever is along there. Is it the septic system there? The assumption is that the septic system is usable. It
That is
passed Title
correct.
V.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, that's it for me.
The other two things would be that the driveway remain gravel or crushed shell, and if that should change, they would, need to refile or, have that reviewed, down the road. And if we want any type of surety for the mitigation, at some point. Sometimes people get to a point where they're ready for occupancy, but the timing doesn't work out to have done the plantings, and that is a time when we could maybe suggest, they want their occupancy permit, but none of the plantings are in. Is a surety appropriate?
Um,
Hmm.
can we have something in the order to that effect that, that could be
Why not?
addressed and dealt with if the mitigation isn't completed
Right.
at the
If
time,
it isn't started. Yeah. Right.
yeah, or completed
Yep. Yep.
before the occupancy permit, that sum of money maybe equal to what the value of the mitigation would be held in surety. Something to that effect. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
The mitigation for the invasives is a 3-year plan according to the O&M.
Okay. Well, why don't we see how it's going? We can make some adjustments too if the commission feels it's going well. I think that would be, we could have that part in there, but open to some review.
Anybody in the audience, Frank?
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Richard. Does anybody in the audience want to speak to this?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay. All right, I'll take a motion.
Will we have a motion to close an issue or just close?
Are you ready to do the issue part, Jen?
Yes.
So
Okay.
I'll make a motion to close with the stipulations mentioned by you and Jen, and issue.
And that's a motion from Richard. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Second from Brendan. All in favor, Eric
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great. Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
It's a big one. It's a big project.
And I get the next hearing on 85 Surfside too that I'm covering for Paul Marabito.
Well, then
Okay.
don't go away.
All right.
Am I opening that one?
Yes.
On October 7th, 2024, 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40, Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the notice of intent application of Christopher Rico and that's that's awful. Tran, sorry about that. For work related to the expansion of existing decking and parking areas located at 85 Surfside Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meetings available on the agenda posted on the town website.
Can we
So-
zoom in on the plan a little bit? We have Darren Grady to present. There's a deck, an addition, and an expansion of parking, just for the short summary.
Well, that's helpful.
Yeah, I do maybe one more. Okay. And this is in Barrier Beach, land subject to coastal storm flowage. Most of the site is in a velocity zone, and then the rest of it is AE.
Darren, you want to tee off?
It is pretty simple project as far as the driveway expansion is with permeable pavers and the decks will be on sonotubes and a detail's been provided on the plan. Otherwise, it's pretty simple to present. If you have any comments, we can review them or address them.
Jen?
Well, I do have some concerns. I think I'm counting 21 sonotubes, so those are with footings, and then more on the road side of the house for the addition. And it would be great to have some more information about, especially the ones for the deck going in, because you are right up against the seawall, and making sure that having something with footings in that unstable type of, I mean, it's all cobbly there, that are they going deep enough so that if there's any issues with the walls, the house isn't compromised, or that while they're being installed, we're not impacting the seawall?
Typically, they're installed more than 4 feet deep, just to protect from frost. These will probably be a little bit deeper considering the environment, but they'll be at least 4 feet.
That's not deep enough.
It's not deep enough.
That's my unengineering opinion based on other places I've seen.
I mean, how far, I guess I'm just not sure how far the seawall goes down, and like, how deep would driven piles be, or open piles, I should say? They would be more than 4 feet?
Yes, they're installed differently. Let's see. So a pile is based upon the friction force along the outside of the pile, and they can measure that as they're installing it. The sonnet tubes that you're putting in are pretty much excavated, and we're showing a footing on them on the detail. And if you need additional information on that, we can try to provide that.
Um, well, I think some more information to show that that's far enough, and I guess I'm also just concerned about footings in that area, so close to the seawall where you're getting splashed with ocean during high tides. And then the other concern would be the pavers for the driveway. I know that there already are the pervious pavers for the driveways, but we do try to have surfaces in these coastal areas be crushed shell, crushed stone, versus the pavers that there's a concern about storm damage and those just becoming part of that. But I'm more concerned about the footings in the velocity zone going up to the seawall for the deck.
So what I could do is I can come back with your answer about the depth of the footing, and I
Okay.
can go back and I can ask the client if unless he's here about crushed shells, crushed stones versus pavers, but I'm pretty sure they were pretty adamant about doing the pavers since they have it already there.
Mhm.
We can add, I can give you a section on the pavers to show you that there may be stone underneath it that would allow water to be held or water to flow underneath them, um, or to support them. Would that help?
Okay. Jen, we'll go in turn, but are footings allowed in that zone?
For proposed activity in a coastal dune, it's open piles, without footings. And so this is a coastal dune and velocity, so it's still open pilings without footings.
Well, we'll roll through the members, but that was just something that I just found odd there. But why don't we stay in check? Brendan?
Yeah, so I guess I'll leave the question of the sonotubes alone.
Oh, go
But-
ahead.
No, I mean, it's being asked, so, I have concerns about this deck going out and what seems to be touching the seawall. And particularly if they're going to excavate along the seawall. I would not, I don't know, I guess, my concern is would that undermine the seawall at some point somehow? I'm also, I'm not, I know they're pervious pavers, but I think that's not, I know that some exist, but I don't know that any more should going forward. So I'm not for the pavers. I think some other medium should be used there.
Okay.
And of course, building the deck closer to the resource area.
All right. Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I share the concerns with the paver material being proposed for the expanded driveway. The Surfside deck really hasn't garnered a lot of attention, but I don't know as if there's much more to say about that. But the backside deck along the ocean where water is overtopping seawall at high tide as it is, with increased wave action, what would happen during a storm event and storm surge, and that to me just seems like a bad idea in terms of storm damage potential there. Never like going towards resource area. I understand the seawall's there, but the seawall is not impervious, as we all know. Never mind the sonotube question. So that's sort of where I am at this point.
Okay. Richard? Thank you, Eric.
I certainly agree on the pavers. What's there is there, but I think it would exacerbate a situation. The pavers just don't absorb as much as something with crushed shell or anything like that. I agree with my colleagues on that. I would like to know the detail on the sonotubes. Maybe it's on one of the other pages, but I'd like to know what that is. I'm not as concerned about excavation if they're just being pounded in, again, based on other situations I've seen. I don't know how easy it is to just turn down open deck where we have so many throughout town that they would come back to us and say, why not us? As long as it's really open and we don't have an issue with the tubes. So, but I think we have these questions really need to be answered in some detail before we go forward.
Sure. Okay. Jen, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I think it would be good to maybe document the surface that the ground surface is underneath the deck, to, have that on the plan, just so there's no confusion later should we, get to that point. And then I guess the other part to remember is that it is considered a barrier beach, and so that's the other part of these paved driveways is just, the way it is taking away material or not allowing material to move. But the bigger concern is the storm damage in this area. The water comes over the wall in storms and just flows across anything that's isn't slowing it down. It speeds it up. So
It's true.
okay, but it sounds like they're going to get us more information about the site.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience for this one?
Yes, we have somebody with their hand raised. I can unmute them. Roger, I'm
I
asking.
just want to state their name and address for the record, please.
All right, so Roger's iPad, I'm asking you to unmute if you would like to comment.
Here we are. Yes, Roger Hoyt. My address is 1175 Main Street in Hingham, and I am an architect working with Riccios for the project. Just to give you some information, but more, it was questions asked about the rear deck towards the seawall. The seawall, we've done quite a bit of work along the Massachusetts Bay, and the back side of the seawalls are never quite vertical. So we had actually placed the edge of the seawall side of the footings about a foot back from the face of the wall. The sonotubes would go in the middle of the footing. We'd try to get down 4 feet. We feel we may hit some resistance in that area, in which case we will pin the footing to the ledge in that area. The number of footings and sonotubes, basically because of weight of the existing and the new decking area in that space, is the reason for the number. With that section, there's no dimension on it, but I can tell you that the intent is that those sonotubes will be from the top of the sonotube down to the top of the footing will be 4 feet, and those footings are a foot to a foot and a half in depth, so they'll be down 5.5 to 6 feet below the surface. If you've been out at the site, you've seen that in that area there's the remnants of previous sonotubes and other debris. The intention would be to clean that debris and anything that's sort of man-made out of that area, level it off, obviously, with the amount of water coming over that wall, that there'll be some disposal of material there. In past storms on those properties, ends up to be quite a bit of flow of rocks and stones between houses on and off the property. But I think that we feel very comfortable with the fact that those footings and the sonotube structure are important and away from the face of the wall at the top, And we think we have enough room, if the backside of that wall is sloped inward, which it may very well be, that we have enough room to have the sonotube placed further towards the house if there's any issue about the bottom of the seawall itself. So we've tried to take that into consideration for that part of the structure.
Okay, thank you. I've got a little, so I've got a paper plan in front of me. And then, but it doesn't show the sonotubes, and then the plan I'm looking at on the screen. So the plan I'm looking at the screen is done by Ross Engineering, and then the plan that I have in front of me is Grady Consultants. I know that you've merged those, but the plan that I have here doesn't show any footing locations.
Oh, what's the date of your plan? Is it one plan or two plans, Frank?
It's a single plan, and it's dated August 13th of 24.
Okay, so the footing locations are shown in as the red
Ah.
circles there.
Okay, now Jen just gave me another one that shows
Yeah.
the footings. Thank you. So sorry about that.
problem.
I guess, do we have anybody else in the audience that wanted to participate, or? I've touched on members, right? We can, and anybody can comment again. So,
Yeah,
Eric, go ahead.
I just wanted to make a comment, but if you have something,
No,
you
go
can
ahead.
go ahead, Frank.
Yeah.
No, I
go.
just think that, Roger, I appreciate your clarification on, the detail provided. But one thing you did mention is certainly concerning to me is you referenced the amount of storm flowage and cobble that had moved between the buildings. That surely is going to impact any structure being brought to the front face, so that really, rather the back face of that existing seawall, any of that flowage, whether it be water or cobble and other debris, is going to be passed onto that deck and accelerated because of the fact that it's a flat deck towards the existing house. And that is a concern of this commission. I would tend to think for safety of the structures and to mitigate any sort of potential storm damage, just this increase here sort of reinforces our point in your comments. Certainly leads us to have to question the validity of going out to that seawall.
Agreed. Okay, I got a couple of questions as well. The existing open deck, is that wood or concrete?
It's wood.
So that's already a wood.
You mean the
deck that-
piles?
No, well, it show on the plan, there's an existing open deck. It sort of wraps around. And
Yep.
so my question is, that's a wood deck, and that presently is supported by sonotubes or I don't know what, if we know what that's supported by.
Sonotubes, yes, sonotubes.
Okay. Well, Darren, Jen can check this out, but we've had lots of discussions about these houses, and when we're elevating homes and whatnot. And to my recollection, in dealing with FEMA or building department, the only time that we would be entertaining any kind of footings is if this was an elevated home that had nowhere to go. Like if someone wanted to elevate their house and literally they couldn't lift it and move it, we would be looking for driven piles, and we wouldn't be talking about sonotubes with footings. And the real issue, I think, is scour and knowing how that can be washed out. And I think Eric brought up a good point. You bring this deck all the way to the seawall, and now the water that would have dropped and gone down into here is now going to be going right towards the house, which seems sort of detrimental to that. And we know that that's washed out underneath there. We've seen it in other locations along Surfside where there've been some there's a whole array of different structures. Some of them are concrete, some of them are wood. Some people make removable panels for the winter so the water can wash down underneath it. But we just had an incident back at Labor Day over on Oceanside where the material out in front of the seawall washed away and then started to undermine the seawall, and it actually sucked the material out from the other side of the seawall, and the deck started to collapse. Just happened a couple of weeks ago. I know that some of this sits on ledge, and there's a lot of different details all along Surfside Road. But I'm like 90% sure we wouldn't be conditioning anything with footings in that location. I'm not as concerned about the addition, only because it's already behind an existing house. But that one right against the seawall, I'm not so sure that's the ideal situation there. And then I think the other commission members talking about it with this pavers. I know a lot of people try to hard face so much of this area because it does wash away. The water comes over the seawall, runs down between the structures, and then it washes out loose material. And so folks have been inclined to try to have a harder surface. We don't want impervious areas, so the pavers have been the choice for those spots, but they don't really help much in like attenuating some of that flow. And maybe just a gravel area would be a better consideration.
We can approach our clients regarding that and see what their preference is.
I think it would be good to have that discussion with the building department. There's a matrix that we have available to us to look at what's allowed in those areas, and I question the sonotubes with the piers in that spot, but also if you take into consideration the water coming over that deck, it looks to me almost like the sonotubes that you're going to put on are going to help support the existing deck. Or they're right there together. So maybe a little more info on that.
Okay.
All right. So I guess we'd want to continue this. Any idea how much time we'd want to, or what we have for availability in meetings?
I think we can do the next meeting.
We have room for them.
Yeah. Josh is just going to grab the book real
That's
quick,
fine.
just to see how booked up we are.
All right. I looked at, so October 21st, that agenda is full. Very much so. We already have a couple other things continuing to that date. November 4th is the next open one. That one
We'll have plenty
would
of
be the
time
earliest
to
one.
to make the plan changes.
It might be good too, just to see if we can get some sort of discussion between the building department and the commission, Jen. on what's allowed in that location as well. I know I'm trying to get those things so they align and there's a little bit of difference of opinion, but it would be good to sort that out.
Yes, and yes, I can do that.
Okay. Okay. So we're gonna make a motion to continue this to November.
Make a motion to continue 85 Surfside to November 4, 24.
As Richard, do I have a second
I will second that.
from Brendan? All in favor, Eric
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. All right, so now we're at 210, 218 First Parish. Have I opened this?
No, you have not. So,
Okay, I got the-
yeah, you gotta
I
open it.
got
Yep.
it. So on October 7th, 2024, at the 6 p.m. meeting, the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation application of W. Thomas Cushing for wetlands resource delineation located at 210 to 218 First Parish Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information access, how to access the virtual meetings available on the town website.
And I'll make a motion at applicant's request to have this continue to
yeah.
October 21st.
Yeah, just before we do that, Richard, I just want, if I know that this has drawn quite a bit of interest, and I think it's important for people to understand that this application is for what we call an ANRAD. We're not having a hearing on any proposed project or anything. The applicant is looking first to get a determination of the wetlands resource area. And so what happens in a case like this is they make application, the commission hires a peer review person will look at this and then compare what they have for information to the applicants. So even when we come to this, you're not going to have a project in front of you. It's going to be a discussion about the resource area, the wetlands that are there, just so that folks understand that.
Good point.
So with that said, how far out do they, Jen?
Next meeting.
Well,
They-
they've requested that, but I want to be real about this because I don't want to just move this out to one meeting and find out that we have to move it again.
We do not have the site visit scheduled. I hope to find that out soon, but that needs to happen, and then they need to write a report, and then the applicant would want to respond. So, no, I don't think all of that will happen in the next week.
Okay.
Jen, do we with an ANRAD, do we have a time constraint or the applicant give us a waiver?
Yes, they signed the waivers.
Okay. So we're not under, I mean, not that we want to drag this out, but we don't have a time constraint that we have to be concerned about on that one.
Well, we're opening it, and we have their, and we're continuing it. So we're not
Okay.
not opening it.
Okay.
So that's okay.
All right. I guess I would, again, what do you recommend for a hearing date? To continue this to?
Well, I mean, they had requested the 21st. I would say realistically, November 4th. I would hope to have a report back by then.
Okay. I think Josh is running back to check the calendar again, but I think that makes more sense.
we were just trying to see what opens up if we continue this to the 4th, November 4th versus the 21st.
So are we
Um,
okay on that?
we're okay if we want to continue it to November 4th.
Yep, let's do that.
That agenda
So-
is good.
Can I get that motion?
I'll restate the motion. Yes, move this to, I'm sorry, 210, 218 First Parish Road, a motion to continue it to 11/4/24.
That's from Richard. Do I have a second?
I will second that, Brendan.
Brendan, all in favor, Eric
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great, thank you. All right, we're on to number 9, Collier. On October 7th, 2024, 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the notice of intent of application for John and Allison Callahan for work related to the elevation of an existing single-family home at 63 Turner Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Oh, wait a minute.
It's 160. Which one are you doing?
I'm opening Turner
Nine
because that
Collier.
was the next sheet, but I've got the wrong one.
9 Collier.
Uh, My apologies. I don't think I have 9 Collier, but I think I can make it work. So what did I get to in the Massachusetts General Laws, Section 3007, Sound Scituate Code of Bylaws, a notice of intent for Kathy and Frank Nielsen at 9 Collier, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend, and information to access the virtual meetings available on the town website. Okay. And this is one that we've also got a request to continue.
Yes, that's from the engineer.
So we have a request to continue this to October 21st. Can we do that?
Yes, we already have the information. I think it was more of a conflict of attending the meeting.
Okay.
Then
So,
I'll make a motion to continue 9 Collier Road until the 21st of October 24.
and that's Richard, second from
I will second that.
Brendan, all in favor, Eric
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Okay, thank
Okay.
you. Now I can open 163 Turner Road. Just for the record, before I open this, I'm party to 164 Turner Road. However, it's a really strange layout there. 163 Turner Road is on Turner Road on the beach. 164 Turner Road is like not even really across the street. It's across the street and then a parking lot and then a dirt road. So I think I feel like I don't have any conflict here at all. It's a good, if you'd have to see it on the map, but it's really quite a good distance away. So I'm going to go ahead and open this and start the hearing. On October 7th, 2024, 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding a notice of intent application for John and Allison Callahan for work related to elevating an existing family house located at 163 Turner Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information that how to access the virtual meetings available, posted on the website. And who do we have for this? Somebody from Morse Engineering?
Yes, we have Jason Scott from Morse Engineering.
Great. You there, Jason?
Looks like he should be. Where'd he go?
Well, he did recently unmute himself, so I'm gonna guess he's working on it. But it's an elevate project, elevating the existing house that's there. My understanding is they are going for a FEMA grant with this work.
Can you hear me now?
got ya.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Yeah, hi, I'm Jason Scott, representing the Callahans at 163 Turner Road. The proposal is to elevate the existing house. It'll be on concrete piers. The house originally was built in 1910. It's a small cottage. It's along the ocean side of Turner Road. It's currently on a concrete foundation with a 3.5-foot wall that kind of is in the back on the ocean side and wraps towards the house where there's a porch. It's a wraparound porch, open deck. Then on the other side is another open deck. And the front is a covered entry. It's a porch. The site lies in a velocity zone, elevations 19, and an AE zone of 15 elevation. It's located on a barrier beach. The concrete piers are planned to have footings that will be it'll be kind of like a grade beam with helical piles beneath that to lock that in. The neighbors on either side of this site have used concrete piers, and I believe probably with footings. All the existing concrete slabs and that wall will be removed and replaced with the piers that you see on the back line. The lowest structural member, horizontal structural member, will be 2 feet above the velocity elevation of 19. The site will be a little safer. They'll be above 2 feet above the estimated wave velocities there, and allow for stormwater to flow through the site now instead of kind of into it and around it. You can see the plan that's up there. We also have a structural plan showing some of the details. I do have a PDF of it if you don't have it, but I'm not sure. Was that issued in the filing? Was the structural plan something you have?
I'm looking at a paper one, but
Okay, that's
I can look real quick to see if we have digital.
it's sheet 2. Well, in mine it's sheet 2. It's actually probably sheet 3 is the covers. Then S1 and S2 has the details by Rivermore Engineering. It shows the grade beam with the helical piles driven in, which can be easily driven when you elevate the house, because you don't need a pile driver. You just need a modified like Bobcat. That one more page. Yeah, there they are. Top left, you can see the helical pile. It's just like a 4-inch. They usually use like galvanized steel. Drive those in with it has some type of coring bit on it that will go through any smaller rocks and tough soil conditions to refusal.
Mm-hmm.
And those, I believe, are backfilled with concrete as well. So they look like toothpicks, but they're pretty strong. And I believe we have 35 piers. Don't count me on that, but
all right. Jen? Thanks, Jason.
sure.
I might have missed a couple things, but as it says on the plans, the existing wall that kind of goes around is to be removed. This is on a barrier beach also, so it's good that it's going up. And the existing garage is also going up also to then be living space, but will be FEMA compliant in height. And everything's open underneath. That garage just kind of throws me off a little bit. That if I'm like it, the the garage is going up, but will be part of the house when it's all done.
Right.
Right? I'm understanding that correctly.
Yes, that's correct.
And what other? All right, the deck will be elevated to the first floor height with sand and cobble below. And I think those were all my comments. I had gone back and forth a couple times, so we've really got a lot on the plan.
Okay. Richard?
Well, I have a question that I honestly don't know the answer to. Are there any restrictions in terms of how much larger the house can be done in that area and with so many on a barrier beach and then subject to coastal flooding?
This house isn't expanding. This staying within the footprint.
I understand that, but then they're adding the garage as part of the house. That's really the basis of my question. And there may not be, I'm just not sure.
I think we've allowed people to expand to
Okay.
some degree, but that garage, I'm pretty familiar with this house. That garage is roofed over. It's just the elevation, the floor elevation is a little bit lower, but it's an enclosed area, so it's going to go from being a garage to being part of the living
Part of the
space.
house. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then otherwise, no, I'm okay. I would like to see if maybe the paved driveway could be not paved, but otherwise I don't have any questions at the moment.
Okay. Eric?
Well, my question about the new deck that's replacing the existing patio being at first floor elevation was, I think, answered from Jen. So thank you for that. I think the other two questions I have is there's no, I mean, it doesn't seem like there would be, there's no discussion of it or anything on the plan, but there's no replacement in mind for the garage structure on site, I assume. And the second question was, there's also no lattice being proposed underneath this building, correct? And that's all I have.
Okay. Do we know anything about the lattice, Jen, or we just put it in the conditions that there won't be?
Right. I don't have any detail on it, but we would condition that no lattice. It should be open underneath. And as far as the driveway, I understand it's remaining since they're elevating the house, but maybe you consider either they change it now while they're doing all this work if they have to do anything to the driveway, or when they do want to do maintenance to the driveway, that it become shell or stone.
Okay.
I did have just one other thing that I forgot. Jason, you might have mentioned it, or it might be in a note that I missed on the structural detail. But did you mention how far down in depth the helical piles go?
Well, the helical piles themselves, they come in like 8-foot lengths and can be extended. They usually go down to refusal, so if they need more, they can add to them. The footing itself will be down 5.5 feet. So I imagine that the depth of that pile will probably, you probably won't be much deeper than one helical pile depth of 8 feet. So it could be down 13 feet.
Excellent. Thank you.
Brendan?
Yeah, well, I share you know, the feeling that if the paved driveway could be unpaved, that would be nice, but I understand that that's an existing thing. Otherwise, I have no other questions or issues here.
Thank you. Do we have anybody in the audience?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay.
Um,
So this house sort of goes to, we discussed that sonotubes earlier for Surfside Road. And this is a case that I mentioned that when we did that, if there's a home that cannot be, obviously we'd prefer to see driven pilings on this site for this house, but there's no way to do that on this house without moving the house off the lot. You know, if you look at this and how small the lot is, they can't go left or right. They can't go out over the ocean, and they can't come far enough back on the property to uh to build, to drive the piles the other way. So in those cases, this is the type of foundation that we've approved to some degree. I don't remember them being quite as extensive with the grade beams. This seems pretty intense. I did a little bit of difference, Jason, when I was looking at the detail. It looked to me like the bottom of the grade beam, the structural engineer calls out a minimum of 3 feet. I wonder if that's deep enough. And then the helical piles are below it. It could be that that's okay, but just kind of curious about that. You mentioned it being at 5 feet, but I'm looking at the detail sheet from the structural engineer and it says 3 foot minimum. And then there's about 7 foot max, this house from the grade to the underside of the beam. Cause if this is in a V zone, it's gotta be,
I don't see where you see that. I'm looking at section A S 2.1 and it says 5.5 feet from approximate grade to the bottom of the grade beam.
section, keep scrolling up,
yeah, if you keep, oh, I was gonna,
back down. Can you keep going? Right there. That one.
3 feet minimum and 7 feet maximum.
Right. And if you scroll up to the one above it, it says 3 feet.
I think. What's the date on your plans? Yeah, see that?
Well, they all have the
mine are
same
different.
date.
Frank,
So
mine are dated September 12th,
all of the
2000.
3 revisions we've been given are dated, let's see, September. What did you say was for the
September 12th.
structurals?
Yeah,
September 12th.
the
This is
same thing
September
here though.
12th.
Yeah, this is Rivermore, September 12th.
It says permit set not for construction 9/16/2024. And
That's what
mine
I had
has
for the house. I'm sorry.
5.5. Can I share my PDF here and then we could maybe submit these?
Well,
No, we only,
we can always condition it. I'm just questioning that depth and how,
Yeah,
I mean, Rivermore is pretty thorough, but just wondering how they came up with that.
I do have a different number, so I don't know what happened, Frank.
Okay.
I'm not trying to pull one over on you. This is what I was handed.
No, I mean, everybody's working on different things. I just happened to notice it was got more out of curiosity. So I think we could, I don't know, Jen, whether we would condition this subject to review with the building department on the foundation to be sure that we're all on the same page. Or
We
if we want to,
would,
or we want
re-
to get this, I don't know where they are on a timeline, if this is a rate, a grant. I don't know.
well, I think either way, even if we had everything, it would still have a condition that at the time of construction, it needs to meet not only the coastal requirements, but any of the FEMA requirements.
Right.
So that would be in there regardless. And as far as any changes to the structurals, I mean, the plan isn't changing, right?
Right.
No.
So it's something we brought to this attention, but there is that discrepancy of a couple of feet in the depth of that grade beam. Which,
I mean, if we continue it to the next meeting, knowing that what we're looking for is the updated structurals and a chance to check with building for any comments on that, then we would close an issue at the next one, unless there was more to address and more to change.
what do you think, Jason?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, all right. I don't want to close and then still have things to figure out and then issue later.
Yep. No, I think there's just some sort of glitch in that part, but I would like to have Jen, if you could take a look at that with the building department and just make sure we're all on the same page with that foundation in that zone.
Okay, yes, I can do that. And I was gonna say the other thing. Okay, that sounds good. Yes.
Anybody else, anything else on this one? Okay. So make it motion. Wait, can I get a motion to continue this?
You can, but did you check see if there was anyone in the audience?
I think I asked earlier
Did
and
you?
nobody
Mhm.
jumped up.
I got up awfully early this morning. Sorry about that. I'll make a motion to continue this to the 21st of October
And to
2024.
keep me on my toes, Richard.
I know. Got to keep myself on my toes.
So that was a
163
motion.
Turner Road. Yes, continue to 10/21/24.
That's Richard. Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Brendan, all in favor. Eric
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Now we have 147 Captain Pierce Road on October 7th, 2024 at 6 p.m. The Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding notice of intent application of Kate and Patrick Blake for work related to the installation of a new plunge pool, location 47 Captain Pierce Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information on how to access the meeting is available on the town website.
All right, and we have Jason Scott here from Morse to present this one as well.
We need the right thing up on the screen.
Yeah, it's not on the screen yet, but I'll just get started. There it is.
And we're just gonna we're stuck on those footings, Jason.
I know we're stuck on.
Yeah, I think you
Well,
can
you guys
zoom
are
in
doing
one more time.
great. I don't know about everybody else. I'm kind of fading. It's getting late, but I'm glad you started 6.
There you go. So is this a relative?
Yes. So
Okay.
Kate is my sister. Jason Scott again, representing Patrick and Kate Blake, in Morse Engineering. So they're proposing a swimming pool, in-ground swimming pool in their backyard with pervious patio surrounding it. We're within a 200 feet of they call it a Newcomb Brook, I believe. It's a USGS perennial stream. It runs dry a lot in the summer times. And there is a vegetated wetland associated with this in the inland bank, of course, for the brook. So a lot of the work we're trying to stay out of the 50-foot wetland setback. There is a little bit of fill that will be required. I think I have it on the plan as 990 square feet with a with a boulder retaining wall, and a recharge. It will have there's a pipe along the back of the wall that will be handling some of the runoff. The patio will be pervious, so it will allow for stormwater to be diverted towards the pipe along the back of the wall and directed towards the recharge units. Those are just our infiltrators or Cultec infiltrator units. We're also proposing a small, I think it's 7x10 pool cabana. And there will be, we have ornamental grass that's going to be transplanted from behind the house currently where it sits to sort of along the wall in in a swale that will be, it will have like a 1 to 3 pitch to it will be loamed and seeded with these ornamental grasses kind of along the center line of that swale. And it's directed somewhat away or more or less parallel with the wetland buffer. We have a site that was, they redid their garage in 2021 and put it back pretty much in the same footprint. So we have been before the board before, and I guess that's my presentation. Probably missed a few things, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Jen?
Yes, we did take a quick look at the site. It was helpful that they had the limit of work staked so you could see where this was happening in their yard. It's good that the the recharge infiltrators are proposed, and I would say the concern would be, adding some impervious in the 100, but also the work and disturbance that's happening in the 50, which is our, no disturb area, with no, mitigation proposed. What else did I want to say about this? I mean, just getting farther down the road would be some of the ways that it would be conditioned as far as just the normal pool stuff that we would put in. But I would say the biggest issue at the moment is the work in the 50-foot buffer. And that's all the comments I have for the moment.
Okay. Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I think that to Jen's point, the work within the 50, of course, always catches the commission's eye, but I think maybe I'm a little confused on what's happening with the pool situation, or what type of pool it is. Jason, you referenced that it was in ground, yet we're also doing what appears to be fill with a retaining wall. I can't tell, like, is that existing? That retaining wall, from some of the satellite images, it looks like there is some sort of retaining structure, but I don't know if that's to be added based off of what the grades appear in the site plan. I would assume that you'd be adding more fill. So maybe just some clarity on the pool, how that's going to be constructed relative to what's being brought in for fill. I
Sure.
think that's my first sort of takeaway.
Sure, it's going to be an in-ground pool. It's going to be a gunite pool, and currently that the whole backyard is just lawn area, and it slopes away from the house. There is a boulder wall that goes along the driveway, but it ends about the beginning bump out of the garage on the south side. You'll see like the edge of the gravel and the boulder wall. It just ends right there. So the retaining wall is proposed. There's nothing there now.
Okay. All right. I think Frank, if you want to move on to someone else, I might have someone
Sure.
come back with. Thank you.
Richard? Thanks, Eric.
No, no, I'm not ready. I don't
Okay.
know okay.
Brendan?
Yeah, so naturally I'm not, I think that's a problem with all that work in the 50 and bringing in fill and creating a wall. And we're also doing work in the 100 as well, and there is no mitigation here. I think there's opportunity for that. So I would like to see that. I don't know, we're putting a boulder wall, a wrought iron fence, and a lot of fill in the 50, and I don't know that that's supposed to be no touch. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Jen, do we have anybody? Joe, do you want to add any other comments, or do we have anybody in the audience?
Well, I don't see any hands raised. I would say I just, agreeing with what Jason said about the kind of stone area that is outlining the driveway, that ends at one point in the backyard, actually kind of where the beginning of maybe the limit of work for this. The backyard is flat coming out of the house, and then it grades down a little bit already, kind of where all of this work is happening. So just that's being changed, but it does kind of that is already what's happening, or at least what I see. And I did want to note that it appears that the limit of work is inside enough that that tree that's kind of marked in the corner of it would be able to stay. Just to, at least that's how I see the site and kind of how I read the plan also.
Okay. Jason, do you know if the lawn extends to the tree line? It's a little bit hard to see in this plan, but it's pretty clear that there's a line of trees, and there's a couple of notes that says lawn. And I can see where the septic system is, and there's a fence that sort of runs on the southerly property line. So right now is the whole area, somehow that wetlands flag comes around that large tree and sort of pokes into the property. It's wetlands flag A17, 16 and 17. It's kind of an odd configuration to that wetlands line.
Yeah, that is not lawn. That is just overgrown right there. It's
Correct.
more just weeds. It's not really trees or anything.
Right, but I'm seeing the word lawn like between wetlands flag 10 and wetlands flag 17 is a note that it's lawn.
Right, and that's been like that. That's been there since they've owned it.
Yeah, well, that's my question. Is
Yeah.
it is all this work in an existing lawn area?
Yeah, it's all lawn area right down to it's a tree line, brush line. It's just where the weeds grow up. There
Okay.
was kind of a walking path down to the pond, which is all lawn, which is mowed. And it
Cool.
has been.
So most of that's my point. Most of this is already on a disturbed lawn area.
Correct.
Okay. And then for whatever reason, this little bump out in the wetlands goes out into that lawn. It's just kind of a strange, I don't know, maybe it's some topography there or something, but just that wetlands line has a really odd shape, and then it sort of jogs into the property. Just kind of trying to figure out why that would do that. Follow me?
Yes. Yeah. We could ask Brad if he was here.
Sure. So I think there's a couple, I mean, Brendan's point about this being in the 50 with kind of like no mitigation. And the flip side is all the work is sort of in an area that's already been altered and is a lawn. So ideally, if we're going to consider work in the 50, we try to figure out some sort of benefit for this property. And I'm just wondering if an area of this could be, and this is something for the commission to think about, would it be more beneficial to like get an area that's undisturbed, connecting a couple of wetlands flags like A17 with A9 or something, and see that area go back to natural vegetation? Would that be something that
Yeah.
might make sense as one thought? And that's just my thought.
I think that would be something worth approaching the applicant for sure. I think another thing, in addition to maybe a mitigation area, would be to ask, this I don't think is a very big ask, the ornamental grass note on the plan, identified graphically by the light green circles.
Yeah.
If we could ask that those are native species rather than introduced species.
Okay. Well, I just think it is an intrusion in that 50, and that we have that sort of little area that jogs in there. Jason, are you following me?
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and I'm wondering if it's worth that discussion with the owners or with Brad, and see if that somewhere in there we could create an area that gets some wetlands replication, or between A15 and A11, I don't know. Guys, take a look at it and see what you think the size should be. You follow me? Between A16 and A11, if a line were drawn and that little area was replanted or something, and to Eric's point about the grasses, I don't know if they want to keep a little path to the pond. I don't know exactly how that works there, but it looks like they come pretty close to the pond in that little corner.
Yeah. Is that something that we could replicate, or add some plantings along a pathway to the pond or something like that?
That's what I'm thinking. If
Yeah.
an area were planted out to offset the work in the 50, getting rid of that lawn area right there, and then vegetating it with some plant species that would be good habitat or food source or something. That would be my.
Would the path be something that's just not impacted, like
If they had a strip that was 3 feet wide or 4 feet
Just-
wide or something that
just grass?
that went through that was grass, but around it was vegetated, so that it would offset the work.
Okay.
I mean, there's a fair
Yeah.
amount of work in the 50.
Yeah. How much area? Would it just be something that you'd take take some of the grass lawn out and then replace it with plantings and,
Or
and,
if you took an
add some
area,
wood chips.
if you kind of calculated an area that you're in the 50
Yeah,
with the between the swale, the wall and all that stuff, if you took that area, saw how much you were in the 50, and then maybe come out to this area and work along those ways. If you have a path in the middle of it, then maybe make the area a little bit bigger. But I think if you could come back with a little plan like that
Yeah.
that showed some mitigation for working that, I personally, I think I could understand that. And if you want to, you can kind of talk to your client and put something together and get it to Jen, just so we can take a look at it as quickly as possible and see if we're kind of in agreement, so we could move forward.
And I do have a hand raised. Patrick is raising his hand.
Okay.
All right, Patrick, I'm unmuting you.
Thank you. Yes, Kate and Patrick are both here. Thank you all for your time and consideration here. We've always thought that was a bit of a strange jog in the wetlands as well. It's not really anything we've done to maintain or not maintain it.
Mow it.
Yeah, we do mow it, and when it's dry enough to do so. We would love to maintain a small path. We do like to skate on that pond in the winter. So we're in agreement or acquiescence to whatever you guys would recommend. We would love to get this approved this evening. We're hoping to move forward with this fall before winter sets in and we can't dig the pool. So if there's any chance that we could do conditional approval, and we will be in agreement, and Jason will be sure to keep us in line with whatever needs to be done to meet the requests, the recommendations or requirements that you guys are putting forth. And the grasses that we're talking about there that are the lighter green on the plan, those are rather mature right now that we have existing. I don't know if they're native to this area or not, but they are something that are substantial in size, and we are hoping to just pick them up and move them along the retaining wall and fence. And so I don't know if that would satisfy some sort of requirements, but that is one thing that we're hoping to move forward with.
Jen, if we close tonight, we wouldn't condition it anyway. So I don't know whether this is a stretch. Is it possible to continue this to the next meeting, that we could close an issue if they came up with a plan?
Yeah, we can close an issue when we come back. Yes, and that way we'll have the plan that I mean, assuming we're good with the plan, but yes, it would be close an issue. Where what I'm hearing is what we're looking for is mitigation that matches, or plantings that match the square footage,
Or
thereabout.
a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah. And they should work with, Brad, who did their delineation on where it would make sense and what to plant. And then we could have put all of that in the orders.
So my suggestion would be is get with between Jason and Brad as quickly as possible, come up with an area that you can, if you want to have a path through it, but make the revegetated area substantial enough to offset your work in the 50. Following.
Okay.
And
about 1.5 times, or
yeah, something like that would be
Okay.
good. And then maybe Brad could take a look at those grasses and see what they are.
Yeah.
And see if that's suitable for there. Does that make sense, Eric?
Okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah, I didn't realize that they were transplanting. I certainly don't want to have, the applicant throw away or compost, perfectly good plants. So I don't want to, be unreasonable and request something that they're trying to be proactive and save vegetation on. But yeah, maybe we should get an idea on those if Brad can, just for information's sake.
Okay.
All right. So we get a motion to continue.
Need a motion to continue until October 21st, 24, and with the hope of closing and issuing on that date.
Okay, that's from
Richard.
Richard. Have a second
I will second that.
from Brendan. All in favor, Eric
Yes.
and Frank. Yes. Great. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay. So the next one is an RDA. This is a little bit awkward. This is my neighbor, friends, and I've been helping him with the permit process. So we only have a quorum if it's the four of us. So
Right.
I am not going to chair this, and I'm not going to participate in the discussion, and I'll just vote present when we come to the end. I think is probably the best. I can't offer any more than that, but
Well, Frank, can I ask a question? I'm happy to chair it, but if there are only 3 voting members, can we really do anything on it?
we're considered we're 4 people, and as I said, what I'm going to do is just vote present.
Gotcha.
So that
Okay.
you'll still have depending on how you vote,
Okay.
I think
got
we'll
it.
be okay. Jen and I and Josh kind of knocked that around a little bit and came to the conclusion that that might be the best solution.
Okay.
All right.
So I will take this on. It's
Thank you.
for 12, an RDA for 12 Graves Road on October 7th, 2024 at 6 p.m. The Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 of the Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws for a request for determination of applicability filed by Mark Dayleader for the demolition and reconstruction of a shed located at 12 Graves Avenue, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. And do we have someone here for this?
Yes, so Paulette O'Connell is asked to unmute. And I would, yeah, just wanted to say it's land subject to coastal storm flowage as far as the what's in the area. And I'll thank you, Paula.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Paula O'Connell from OCO Architecture. I've been working with the day leaders for a couple of years. I did the original home. So essentially the idea, as explained, is we're going to remove, the existing structure has already been removed. It was in really bad condition. There's been a lot of water runoff going through the site. That's been removed. They want to extend it 70 square feet, essentially forward up into their driveway. And as part of that work, we're going to keep the existing foundation of the shed and then add a typical frost wall with a footing for the new part. And then the driveway right now is paved, and that's about 1,000 square feet. That's going to get removed and be replaced with shells or some sort of pervious structure there. What you see in the blue is a new deck. So essentially this is a AE14. So the elevation of the new shed needs to be raised, and we're going to go up to 15.3 elevation. So that's about 3.5 feet above grade currently. So unable to get out of the new shed, we're going to have to go on a landing of a deck and then down into the driveway or down into the backyard. The doors will be facing that backyard, sort of where it says lot area on the plan is where the doors come out. So that deck will be on sonotube footings. There'll be approximately 6 to 8 footings to support that, and it'll be pervious, go through there. And there are the actual 150-foot lines are across Montvale Ave, so it's across the street. So this actual lot is not within the buffer zone, but obviously it is within the AE zone, and we're here for approval. So any questions beyond that, feel free to ask. I may not have covered everything, but hopefully got the basics. Oh, I forgot one thing. In green, we're gonna as I was talking about the water runoff, just to the slope of the land, so it comes down the back of the lot and then kind of out towards the front. So they want to capture that in a French drain, so
Mhm.
it doesn't go across the structure as it did originally, and that's why the structure had to get removed. And that will go to a dry well that we're hoping to put underneath the new drive.
Okay, thank you. Jen, anything to say first?
Okay, yes, so they've filed with zoning and a decision was issued on that. That was done, that's been done already because of it being in the floodplain and watershed protection district. You might have said this, but I missed it, but you're removing about 1,000 square feet of asphalt driveway to then be crushed stone or seashell.
Yes.
And those were the points to mention. Otherwise, I know it's an RDA, but we would want to know before work began and just to have a chance to make sure erosion control is up.
Yes, that's noted in the sort of orange line across there, but
Yes.
there'll definitely be some erosion control to make sure it's not going into the pond across the street.
So I mean, I think those are our comments for now. You've mentioned the information about the deck and the height, and the footings, the sonotubes. So I think I'm good for the moment. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Eric, any comments or questions?
I think it's, great removing impervious material from the site. I think the one thing I just am curious about is you said you're raising the elevation of the first floor of this structure, but you're also, unless I misunderstood, utilizing the existing foundation, but also extending 6 feet. Could you just maybe clarify, the actual construction element of this relative to the grade change?
Yeah, so we are going to keep, so there's a slab there with some footing that we're gonna use, and then we're gonna build wall above that. So we were thinking we might pin, we haven't come to a final conclusion on it. Either build up the wall around it and pin it to the existing foundation, or just build a wall with a PT up to the level of the floor. So essentially, there's going to be a crawl space between the existing slab and the first floor of this new structure. And the new foundation will just be built up. So it'll be a typical 4-foot frost wall with a footing, and we're going to build that up and then have the same construction around the perimeter. So either if we build up CMU or something around the existing foundation structure, and then have that tie into the new foundation walls, or use PT wall. So it's gonna be one or the other. And then we'll,
Sure, thank you.
yeah, all right.
Brendan?
Are there any utilities in this structure?
Yes. It's gonna be, it's gonna have water because there's gonna be a small powder room in there and electricity, and then we're gonna probably do a through wall unit for heating and cooling. It's gonna tie into the existing sewer for I think that's over in the rear part of the lot. It's gonna tie in there. So it's gonna tie into the existing home utilities.
Okay, all right. I guess that's my only question.
Are you going to have, assuming that we move this along, are you going to have all of this put together with engineered drawings?
I can talk through that with the client. If that's required, we can certainly provide that.
I would think that would be helpful where you're adding to the existing building with some existing heights and specifications. That would be my big thing.
I know architecturally it's been drawn out with the elevations and whatnot. Site-wise, we can,
Have we got those drawings? Have they been sent in?
I don't know if they have, I don't believe so, so we can certainly forward those on.
More information, better.
But we were just kind of waiting for, don't want to get too far down the line with structural and architecturals and then
No,
not
I
get
understand.
approved. So it's sort of like horse between the cart, just trying to figure out how much information we need to get.
No, I
But
understand.
we
It's
can
not- it is
certainly
an idea.
forward what we have.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that has any, and wants to raise their hand for this?
I don't see any hands up. I guess I would want to add any of the utility work, any of that trench digging could be marked on the plan also.
Okay.
And I have not talked, I don't know if anything's needed. You're just connecting to sewer. Okay. Right? That's what you told me, not septic, sewer.
Yes, I believe so.
So Jen, do you need any of this stuff before we gave a negative vote on this?
I would say I would want that information before they did any work. So we could put all of that in the RDA. I'm going through everything I have in here just to double check. I was looking at the plan that was on the screen.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have a site plan that, what the basic outline of this was that went to zoning. So then we worked a bunch of this out with the different elevations.
Right.
On site, it was a little bit complicated. So then we sort of figured this out, got to this point, we can certainly get it on the site plan
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
to you. Yes.
Yep.
I mean, I have not asked building for, I'm just, making sure it's any of the other requirements that might be needed with it being the right height. I'm sorry, I'm looking at a couple of the pieces that were submitted. I think we would say we would want that information before work began, just, knowing where you would be doing the utility connection. I'm assuming there'd be some sort of digging, right? Like it
Yeah, it
isn't
would likely
already
be that
there.
bottom corner. I mean, we're gonna, there's be some digging for the the French drain around it.
Mhm.
And then probably to the left of, like, underneath the blue, the left of the purple structure, there'll be a trench that's attaching to the dwelling. If that makes
Okay.
sense. Yeah, so we can notate that on the final site plan.
Okay, then Jen, the big question is there any reason not to proceed with a -3 on this?
I mean, they have their decision from zoning. And I'll be involved in signing off on the building permit, so I am okay with a negative determination. I don't think I have any other questions.
Okay. Then from one of the other two gentlemen, if they're willing, we need a motion on this RDA.
I will make a motion for a -3, right?
That's correct.
On 12 Graves Road.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I guess I'll second that.
Second from Eric. Frank?
Present.
And I will agree with a -3. So we just need to get that information into Jen that we mentioned, and then you can keep going on this.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we're actually done with all of our hearings. But that it's a little after 8 o'clock. So on to
We do have orders for 280 Central to vote.
Okay,
Yeah, I thought those were pretty good.
do you want to make a motion then?
I'll make a motion to accept the order of conditions as presented on 280 Central Avenue.
And a second,
I will second that.
Brendan, all in favor, Eric
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Okay, do we have, just trying to think of folks that are hanging here. That we might have, so we can update a few
Minor
other things.
modification, maybe?
Did, pardon me, Richard?
Could it be on the minor modification?
Well, that and I do think the certificate of compliance for a project. I know there's somebody on that would like to talk about that.
Okay. Well, why don't we kind of work down and what is minor modification for Old Farm? What is that one?
I need to find my folder. I want to say it was the builder came by with some additional. Do we happen to have the plan to put up there that they wanted to do with some additional pavers they wanted to do around the house?
Is it Donna Hamill with a hand raised? Would that be part of that?
Yes, I'm gonna ask her to unmute. Okay.
So,
Good evening.
yeah, I'm the owner of the property.
Just state your name and address, please.
Yes, my official name is Eldonna Hamill, 17 Old Farm Road, Scituate, Mass.
Good evening.
Hi. On the original plan, I believe there was a pervious pavers and crushed stone, but the crushed stone was in error and it needs to be all pervious pavers. And what we would like to get is the ability to extend the driveway, the existing driveway now, which will be the pavers, up on the side of the house so that we can get one extra parking space. And then also in the back of the house, underneath the deck, there'll be pavers that would go on the side of the house and be under the existing deck.
Do you have any kind of drawing or sketch or anything of what you're proposing to do?
I don't have it with me tonight. No, I thought Brian, my builder, might have submitted it, but evidently he has not. So
No, he did drop something off. I'm just not finding it in the file.
I think I
Um,
might have given it to Frank. Let me check.
Okay.
Oh. Oh, sorry. I do have it,
well then,
but nobody else does.
That's right.
I think
Yeah,
I
I
have
do
something
not
in
have
an
it.
email.
I don't have a digital, but yeah, it might have been sent via email.
I don't have it in front of me.
So Donna, just while we're searching for some things here, so what he's shown here, he's lined a couple of things. There's like a bright yellow and there's a concrete driveway and then I guess that was getting removed. So proposed crushed stone
Yeah.
pervious drive is what was called out. So are you're saying that you want to put pavers in all of that area that's in yellow?
correct.
So it's gonna run along the fence line to the backyard, up all the way up to the shed?
It's going to, yes, there's a platform there where all the HVAC equipment goes. They'll go up to that. And which I guess is called the shed because there's gonna be some storage underneath that platform.
Well, it shows on the plan a structure that says shed on it. Oh, that was gonna be removed. I'm sorry. So,
Yeah, the old shed has been removed. That's long gone.
okay.
Oh.
Oh, Josh has got it here. Here we go.
Okay,
Go.
the yellow area to the right of the house. That is not all going to be pavers. It's going to go. There's a platform there now that's, like I said, is gonna hold the HVAC, so it's only gonna go up to that level. So I would say about a quarter or maybe a third of that distance is the extension of what we're looking for. And then the other yellow area in the back of the house will be pavers. And then the blue area is going to be crushed stone.
Okay.
But
So-
I think we need to give you a little better.
Yes.
This one is a little difficult to
So,
understand.
well, so right, maybe we can help you a little bit though with what the commission's thinking. So you have an asphalt area right off of the cul-de-sac that's gonna be, it's proposed 8-foot wide driveway, impervious apron. So I'm assuming that's gonna be asphalt, or is that, or is that?
No, the asphalt has all been removed and it's
Okay.
all will be replaced with a pervious material, a paver.
So that pervious pavers are gonna come all the way out to the radius.
Correct.
Okay, good.
Correct.
And then, because in this plan, it was proposed to have an 8-foot wide driveway of impervious apron. So you're saying you're not gonna do that. It'll be pavers, and then the pavers would go up the side of the property to where there's maybe a bulkhead or
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
where the HVAC
platform,
is.
it's a
Yeah.
platform, raised platform to hold the HVAC, but underneath, we're just gonna enclose it so there's some
Yeah.
storage, that's
So,
all.
so then from that area back, are you planning to do that in crushed stone or in grass, or what's
Well,
the,
from that area forward, which needs to be grass.
okay,
And then
And-
the pavers would begin again on the back side of the house underneath the deck.
okay. All right. I see it. Richard? Or Jen, do you want to make any comment first? Richard, what are your thoughts?
Well, I was thinking, I agree, I agree with Donna. We probably needed a little more clear on the drawing, but from what she's saying, I don't really have a problem with it, especially where they're already taken out all the impervious. I really don't have a problem with it, but I would like to see a better drawing, a more accurate one that we can understand and have
Yeah.
available.
Yeah,
Sure.
I agree with you on that, but
Okay.
yeah, we are trying to get rid of everything that is like the asphalt and all that stuff. That's just nasty.
I guess what I'm looking at is in concept, if we're in agreement, then we'll,
Okay,
so,
Well, but do you want to, even if you get this on a revised plan from the engineer, or I don't, I mean, if that's what you want, would this be something you would hear as a minor modification, or would you want this to be an amendment?
so a minor modification is something that Jen could approve.
Right.
And, usually we chat about it a little bit, but if we feel like it's not that significant, then she could go ahead and do that. Getting input from you folks tonight would be helpful to her. Unless we think it's more, substantial, and then we'd have to get, amending the orders.
My own opinion is I'd still like to see it a little more clear as to exactly how they're doing it, but assuming it's the way Donna has said it is, I think a minor modification would be fine.
Okay. Eric?
So
And the
I-
other difference is a minor modification, Jen could just do that administratively. Amending the orders requires a vote of the commission.
It's a hearing, it's a public hearing.
it's
So
a hearing,
butters are
so it gets-
notified, and then we have an amended set of orders, you know, with all the updated calculations and review.
Yeah, which time-wise, we're ready to move in the end of the month. So it's,
Well, this wouldn't stop the work on the house. This is
I
just
understand.
yeah.
It's gonna be a muddy, goofy mess down there, but you know, I'll do whatever you guys, you know, agree. to.
Okay, so Eric, what do you think? Minor modification or amending the orders?
Well, I guess I'm just wondering, especially as we're working within the 50 to the bank, you know, just looking at the proposed work, whether it be the gravel or the pervious pavers, how much excavation is going to be required to create the area for the crushed gravel, and how much excavation is going to be required underneath the deck. Obviously, there's a lot of work going on at this site with the addition of that deck on the back side of the house, but because of the fact that we're working within the 50, I'm just curious as to how much excavation, especially for the pervious pavers with the sub base, is going to be required in there. I think to Richard's point, and Donna, your own remark, just having a little bit more detail would certainly help, you know, clarify some of the proposed work that's going to be going on here, and maybe make that decision a little easier. But I guess we can hear from the rest of the commission as well.
Sure. It's not a lot of us tonight. Brendan?
I wish there were some more of us. Yeah, I don't, I don't know what to say.
I mean, can I jump in for 1 second?
Yeah,
I'm trying to
please.
read it on the plan. So what they showed and we conditioned was a home with a first floor deck with a pergola above it in the outline that where they're showing this. So it looks like what they've determined is, or what they should have thought about when they did this, is the area underneath that deck is not going to grow grass. Also, it does say that it's gravel. This is a second floor deck. There's like a first floor deck that's further out, and then a second floor deck that looks like it's smaller. If I got that right, Donna?
Yes,
Yeah, so the first floor deck extends out about 8 feet. The second floor deck extends out about 6 feet, or maybe it's 12 feet and 6 feet or something, but so there was always a deck planned. It's the area that's underneath the deck is probably not going to do that well with grass, so they're proposing to put crushed stone under it on the area where it's blue, and then they're asking, you know, rather than have dirt or whatever, that part be pavers. To your point, Eric, that's going to require, in both these areas, it's going to require excavating or removal of some topsoil and replaced with crushed stone, or replaced with the um uh those materials. So it will take a little bit of excavating. And
It will,
then,
Frank, but they're only asking for the additional areas. We'd already approved
correct.
right,
much of it.
right. And then on the side, be the same thing. There was an area that maybe would have been grass, and they're looking to have it in crushed stone. And then the other part would be kind of, at that point, they're out of the 50, they're between the 50 and the 100. The only place that it's in the 50 is like a corner of that project. So it's the blue shaded one. Most of that's in the 50, and a little bit of the other deck. The other thing, again, similar to the other house, is all of these are altered. It's grass all the way to the edge of the pond. You know, this whole site's a lawn. It's been a lawn for a long time.
Yep.
So,
I mean, I can-
you know, we've already conditioned the project, so it's just how do we want to handle these changes? if we think it's significant enough, then we get an amended order. If we feel like it's can be dealt with administratively, then then it would be a minor mod.
And I can see the argument for an amendment, but also given the fact that it was conditioned with gravel already, especially in the yellow, there would have already been consideration to some extent, I would expect, for excavation in that area to begin with. So while I can see the argument for amendment, maybe minor mod in this case, because of what the original proposal was, makes it so it's a minor mod. I don't know.
Well, that is my thinking.
Is that something, Jen, that
Yeah, if you're okay, I mean, I don't know if this is the plan we're accepting as a minor mod, or if we wanted a little bit more of a little bit more detail and then can accept it, that's fine. And be good to know know the square footage, kind of have that line, exact. So when we get down to the point of doing the as-built, when the project's done, we know what we're matching up to.
Yeah,
And I know there's a row of proposed seagrasses in the corner. I, that's sort of the only other thing. And the conservation markers were already approved, part of the original orders also.
yeah, I think the additional detail would just solidify our confidence in the decision.
Okay,
All
all right.
right.
I will get that to you. And what's the timing after after I get the plan to you?
I just depends on when you get it to us. If it's, far enough out from a meeting, we can get it on the next meeting. I mean, I would truthfully say it'll probably be November 4th. I'm not sure how much time we'll have October 21st. So as soon as we get it, we'll let you know which one. I don't know that we would really have time on the 21st. Just given all of the hearings and meetings that are already advertised for that night. So I would assume November 4th, but that is sort of on an assumption that we get it, at least a week out.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
And then we have somebody, I think, on for Hadley Road. What number? 316. Is that right?
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to unmute Chris.
Okay.
I don't have the plan with me. I think you have the plan.
I do.
All right, I'll see what I can find to open on my end to see it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is a discussion about a project 316 Hadley Road. This is to the left of the Egypt beach parking lot. We conditioned this house about a year ago. It was a raise and rebuild. There's a little pond out in back of it.
Correct.
And there's some changes that what we conditioned, and then what's existing. There's a few differences on that, and so Chris Lucas, I think with Lucas Environmental, wanted
Is this
to.
an enforcement?
No, well,
No, they're looking for a certificate of compliance,
Okay, thank you.
but there's a fair amount of difference between what was conditioned and what's there now, and they did not come to us for a minor modification or an amendment.
Okay.
so I mean, Chris can talk to it more, but one of the differences was the driveway. We had conditioned it being on one side of the house with the idea that now we wouldn't have a driveway, so close to the wetland line. And so one of the changes was making that driveway more circular. So anyway, so now we're kind of back to having some of the driveway on that other side of the house, if that makes sense. But Chris had some details to talk about as far as that was concerned. And Frank, I want to say the fence was put in also. They did make sure it was, on their property and that there was appropriate opening underneath of it, as we ask for in our fences. Anyways, so I guess it's, what are some of our concerns and what other information might we want?
Chris, do you want to speak to this?
Yes, that would be great. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. For the record, my name is Chris Lucas with Lucas Environmental, professional wetland scientist and registered professional soil scientist. There were a few deviations, and unfortunately, the owners couldn't be here tonight. They're traveling back into the state tonight, so they weren't able to jump on. Otherwise, they'd be here. I think there was some confusion in the process. They had reached out to me earlier this year about some things, I believe last year, and they thought they didn't realize they had to come back from out of modification. I think, Jen, they had spoken with you about some changes, and you had mentioned to them needing an NOI, and they inquired with me. And I indicated I didn't think it needed a new NOI, but they should follow back up with you. And I think that somehow got lost. So that there was no intent to deceive the commission on the changes. It appears to be genuine mistakes that were made. And I do not believe they were significant. And I provided an email today with a summary of why. One of the items was the commission approved over 2,600 square feet of impervious area for the site, which was a reduction from roughly 4,600. So even though this was a raise and rebuild, we significantly reduced the amount of impervious area on the site. They took it a step further during construction. They actually reduced the impervious even further. So you approved over 2,600 square feet and they actually built under 2,100 square feet. So there was a further reduction from the approved to the built of impervious area by about 520 square feet. They did increase the gravel driveway. On the plan to the right, there's kind of an arced curve. When the contractor was building the gravel driveway to get into the garage, there were significant concerns with safety for them trying to pull out and get onto Heatherly Road due to the speeds over there with the beach traffic and whatnot. So he suggested the arc, so they could easily get in and out of there a little better. It was a safety issue for them, per the contractor. The proposed gravel driveway was roughly 2,100 square feet. I'm sorry, it was 1,300 plus square feet, and they ended up building about 2,100. So the total additional gravel driveway was about 757 square feet. So if you kind of look at, they reduced the impervious even further, and then they extended the gravel. So even though there's more gravel driveway, it's pervious, and they've still reduced the impervious, so it's almost a wash. Yes, they should have come before you to ask for a modification change, but we're here now. So looking at that, we don't feel it's a significant deviation because the gravel driveway, even though it's still there, is still better than what was approved by the commission with the further reduction of the house and footprint. They also pulled it back slightly further from the pond in the back, so they're a little closer to the road. They were able to tighten that up a little bit. And then the area to the right of the house where the fence is now, they did install it over the town line, and they had approached us about a year plus ago with that, and we said there's no way the commission can approve something like that, so they moved the fence back and it was resurveyed. The as-built plan now shows the fence completely on their property. It is not located on the adjacent property by the town of Scituate. They also cleaned up the encroachments in the back of the lot. That was part of the approved plan. There was some structures towards the northeast corner that encroached onto the Scituate land. Those are all removed. They did the fence is three-sided, basically. The northern side was approved. The commission did approve a fence along that northern side from the house, pretty much to the wetland edge. They ended up adding a southern and eastern side that was not approved. That area was the previous paved driveway that was removed. The plan specified, and previously the edge of lawn actually went down into the wetland. The former homeowner had their edge of lawn was well into the wetland line itself. The entire area outside the fence to the wetland line has now been completely restored. So they fixed all of that. The area where they have the lawn now was proposed to be the pavement removed and then revegetated. There was no specification in the notice of intent or on the plans or by the commission specifically what was to go in there. So what they did was they loamed and seeded it and put lawn in. And then for safety reasons, they enclosed it for their pets due to coyote issues in town and for the proximity to Hatherley Road. So that was the only reason the fence went in, but the area was revegetated. Again, there were no further specs, so we feel that without having further specs, that does seem appropriate for a case like this. And I think they've made some other improvements here with the project, so it's not quite a one-to-one. And the area within the fence is approximately 1,100 square feet, so it's not a significant area. And they've made improvements with the site with everything they've done, reduction of impervious and some other features. So they're hoping to close tonight if the commission they've noted the deviations. We do feel they're minimal. They do apologize for not coming before you for a modification request. We feel a minor one would have been appropriate. That's just my opinion, but they do apologize for that, and they're hoping to close this out and move forward. And if they plan anything else, they'll definitely come back and touch base with Jen if they need a permit or not for any future work. I don't think they're right now they have nothing planned, but they're well aware of what they need to do moving forward. Thank you.
Jen, can I jump in on a couple of questions here? Chris, was my understanding that when they did this project that somebody put the silt sock on the wetlands line as opposed to on the limit of work or where the erosion control was laid out? So was that area all restored between that between where the erosion control is and the wetlands line?
Yes, everything is stable and restored. It's well vegetated to the east of the fence line between the wetland and the fence and the landscaped areas out front in the gravel driveway. So there's a little landscaped island there. So everything's been revegetated. Everything to the right of the gravel driveway and the house is either lawn or well landscaped or naturally vegetated. The area between the former edge of lawn and the wetland and the fence is all natural vegetation. They're letting that grow wild.
Can you say that again? Between the
between the previous edge of lawn, which was in the wetland, that's all restored. And then the area between the wetland edge, from like A4, A5, A6, and A7 to the fence is generally naturalized now.
So then what's happening, like, as you go further out with the wetlands lines, like A8, 9, 10, between that and the pond, is that revegetated or is that continued to be lawn?
That the limit of work for the erosion controls was roughly where that rock circle was, following.
So everything beyond that erosion control and the edge of the pond is natural now?
That was never touched. There was no work proposed. The erosion control line was basically between the house and that and the pond. So everything within the erosion control line is lawn now. Everything outside of it exists as it did before. It wasn't touched or changed.
Am I seeing, is there a shed been constructed?
There is a small shed that was constructed there. Yep.
And that's it's got to be in the 50.
I believe it's a rubber shed. But yeah, it's in an existing disturbed area, and that they did include that in the impervious calcs that we sent over today with the new totals.
But it's only about 12 feet off of A12, maybe 20 feet.
It is close. I believe there was a shed there previously.
I don't see
Oh.
that.
I don't know I thought there was a shed there. It might have been a rubber shed previously, but they did put a small shed there, for some outdoor storage. Again, that was formerly lawn area. That was.
Mhm.
Oh.
Okay, I feel badly that members don't have the benefit of a plan.
Mhm.
If, let's see,
And then the fencing, you're saying is compliant with DEP kind of guidelines for keeping some space on the bottom for small animals, things like that. Did you say that?
They originally had the fence go down to the ground, and after speaking with Jen, who indicated they needed spacing for, wildlife moving under the fence, they did pull out the bottom panel, so there's enough space there for small mammals and critters such as like rabbits and things can fit under there and get through. They didn't want, I think that sounds appropriate to me. I didn't measure when I was out there, the actual depth, but I think that's good. The other part of it too, this particular case, you may not want wildlife moving under there because it's gonna go, you don't want it heading towards Hatherley Road. You almost want it, I'd rather divert it along the back wooden fence over into that wetland area. It's got a little more protection.
But
If they're heading that way, if they're heading south, they're gonna get south anyway. So.
But the new
That's
fence
water.
itself is only about 4 feet from the wetlands line.
The new fence is yeah, it goes up to the property line.
I know it goes to the property line, but my point is it's only 3 to 4 feet from the wetlands line.
Correct. There wasn't.
I mean, I guess if we were going to condition a fence, my thinking was that we would have wanted a fence that was further away from the wetlands line. I understand before it was a driveway, but part of conditioning this project was that it was all being revegetated, and now it's a fenced in area, and it goes almost up to the wetlands line.
It does. I mean, they're constrained. I mean, they're just looking for a safe area for their dogs. I believe they have dogs, and it's if we go to the back, we're pinned in by the wetland there, and we're pinned in on the side. So I understand we're in a difficult position now because they didn't come back to you for the request, but I would hope the commission would be open to some kind of fencing on this site. Again, you've got Hatherley Road there. It's a very busy road, and the site was developed. They didn't expand beyond the limit of previous development on this site. And they're just looking for a safe place for their dogs to be, mostly from coyote.
Mm-hmm. We had a similar discussion about a site on Hollis Street back some time ago, and conditioning a project and where the fence should be in relation to the wetlands line. And we looked for it to be a greater distance from the wetlands line. This is only a few feet away.
Yeah, I guess if they were to relocate it, we're still kind of pinned in here with the wetland in the back. We'd still, if they went to the back, they'd still have.
Well, it depends on how far it went out, it just it's awful close to the wetlands line. And that was the whole goal, is to try to push it away. That was the discussion that we had when we conditioned this project, was they were moving away from the wetlands line, which was a positive thing.
Right.
And the site was a tough spot, and it certainly seems like it's in better condition with this.
Right. And previously they definitely pulled back further from the duck pond there. Previously
Yep.
the existing house was down, between contour 8 and 9. And our proposal was to pull it back towards the 9 contour, and they're almost, they're quite a distance back from that, almost at the 10 contour. So they were able to pull back structure and everything from the duck pond.
Yeah. You can see some definite positives.
I mean, I don't know if there's anything that they can do to allow the fence to remain in this case. Like we said, they did remove some of the encroachments and other work in the back near the wetlands that were previously there was a large pergola platform. There was a shed that encroached. There was quite a bit of other structure that was taken out that was right up to the edge of wetland back there that was taken out. So there some consideration for that with potentially leaving the fence. Obviously, it's a cost. They've already moved it once to get it back on the property. I can't speak to the issue with where the erosion control went. I'm not 100% certain what happened there, but they've already relocated the fence once.
So Frank, I'm looking at I guess the plan that might have been existing conditions. And so that there was a shed, I think what you mentioned, a pergola platform, all of that kind of sort of behind the pond. And that's come out.
So now we got this up on the screen. Sorry, I was looking at the plan. I didn't realize you guys had pulled this up. So to me, the question is more this fence that extends on the right-hand side. Now you guys can see the driveway. The old driveway was just supposed to come directly out onto Hatherley. To Chris's point, it's a gravel driveway, and there was reduction in that. If that seems like a safer thing to do, I guess I'm not that concerned about the driveway. It was more the encroachment on the right-hand side. You can see the fence goes to the property line, but it's only a few feet away from the wetlands line.
Right. And I will add, it's not closer than the existing driveway. I know the goal was to pull back. They ended up pulling back along the pond more so than there, Mr. Snow. And but the driveway did actually encroach slightly over the property line.
Yeah.
So
No, the old one did. And that was all part of the discussion.
Right.
With this and trying to come up with something that we could condition back when they came before us.
Right.
So to me, it comes down to basically the fence, unless any of their other commission members see something on the plan.
I just wonder if they could reduce that fence area, the way it sticks out right to the property line, and they just went straight back, if that would be of some help. I understand why they have it, why they felt they need it. But it is very close to the wetlands line.
Eric?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that it was put on town property to begin with and had to be moved at that point to make sure that it was on their own property. It's also unfortunate that the applicant didn't know that they should have filed with the commission before making these changes. Unfortunately, not knowing is not an excuse. It might be a reason, but it's not an excuse, unfortunately. And when it comes to the current positioning of the fence, it is a shame that they moved it to a position that is still so close to the wetland. Unfortunately, I was not part of the original hearing when this was being discussed. But having it be so close to the wetland is certainly not something that I believe we would have approved of today. So how that gets remediated, I'm not entirely sure, but the fence does seem to be the sticking point, unfortunately.
Hey, thank you. Brendan?
I agree with what Eric said. And just leave it at that. I think, yeah, the fence just seemed to be like they cut off a piece of it. I kind of wish they had just gone straight back from there, but would have made it easier. But the fence is very close to the wetland line.
Um,
So
Jen,
just to clarify, so it sounds like what the commission would prefer is where that little jog in the fence is, you would just go straight back from there. Is that what you're considering?
That's what I suggested. I'm not sure if anybody agrees with me or not.
Also, the fence, I see pictures here, the fence.
You're muted.
Sorry, thank you. The fence does have an opening at the bottom. I'm looking at a picture here that doesn't show that.
I don't know what photo that is. I do, the owners have indicated to me that they took a bottom panel off so wildlife can move underneath it. That was after, so that may be a photo. I don't know the timing of when they removed it. I'd have to ask them.
Okay.
I understand they've informed me that they have removed the bottom panel. It wasn't something I examined when I went out there because I didn't realize it was an issue at the time.
You'd have to check.
Okay.
One thing, I don't know if this might be a compromise with the commission here, with the fence. We calculated the area within the fence. It's roughly, it's 1,107 square feet is the area within the fence. I know it is close to the wetland line, but it's within previously paved areas. Would the commission possibly entertain a 1-to-1 swap somewhere? Because if you, Jen or Josh, I don't know if you can scroll up on that towards the top of the plan. They have some, if you keep going a little more. You see the edge of lawn back there. Maybe they could let that just, some 1,100 square foot area that could go native. That's directly against the wetland edge now. Maybe they could just let that go natural, or maybe seed that with a wetland mix or something. Maybe, would that be something the commission might entertain as a compromise to, okay, that area might be better served back there being protected, and they could let that go permanently as a swap for that area that's now lawn and fenced in, if the commission were to allow the fence to remain.
so do they go over that bridge and then maintain a lawn out in that back area?
Yes, the existing conditions in the former owner, that area had been legally and lawfully maintained for quite some time back, and they're doing the same now. So there's a little footbridge back there. The rest of the structures have all been removed, and it's a mowed lawn right now. But they could give up some of that area back there. I had spoken to the owners if they might consider that, because they really would like the fence to remain. We thought maybe that might be a compromise to the commission if they were to swap an equal area out back there, and we can naturalize that and make it part of the wetland back there.
Seems like a reasonable, but Richard?
It does seem reasonable. I just want some specifics on how they do it and what's going to be there.
Okay. Eric?
Yeah, I think that's a great compromise and suggestion. I definitely would want to make sure that it's not just existing lawn
Right.
that is now ceased, to be maintained, and that vegetation pops up, because then we could be dealing with potential invasive. So I would like it to be intentional. I don't know if Brad Holmes or even, Chris,
Yeah.
you could.
I think Chris could probably be the one.
Yeah, sorry about that. I just always have Brad on the mind.
Geez.
I apologize, Chris.
No problem.
But yeah, an appropriate, plant palette to renaturalize that area would be, I think, amenable to the commission.
Yeah, I think some, we could probably, quick thinking here, without getting directly in front of you, I'd probably suggest just tilling it over. 1,100 square feet would be a handful of shrubs, maybe a tree or two, something small like that they could plant back there, and then do a wetland seed mix or something, and then just keep an eye on it for invasives. There's a lot of Phragmites. Alternatively, we could just do a meadow type species, like a wetland meadow pollinator type mix, which then they could, if you want to really keep out the frag, maybe do an annual mowing of it to keep it a meadow. That would be one option in lieu of trees and shrubs back there. I don't know what the commission would prefer. I'd rather discuss tonight, see where you're open to, and then I think the owners would be okay planting a couple shrubs and trees. I have to confirm with them, but a wetland meadow might be something that, because then it can be annually mowed to keep it a meadow, and that might help keep out some of the invasives as well.
Brendan, did I ask?
Yeah, that does sound good. There also seems to be some fence pieces back there. Maybe a pallet.
Okay. All right, why don't you come up with something, Chris, to offset that? And
Okay.
I think you got the gist. And there's only 4 of us here tonight, but I think most folks would go along with that if we felt like there was some sort of give and take that could work.
And on behalf of the owners, I assume you wouldn't entertain closing the COC with the condition that that's what land swap occur, would you? With the future plan to be approved by the commission for the restoration back there?
Well, we're not going to issue it until we have an updated as-built plan with a new edge of lawn on it.
Right.
Okay.
So, you know, but once we have that on a plan, that we can let you know the timing.
So, I mean, the time of year, they probably couldn't do this till the spring. I know they really would prefer not to wait that long. I mean, is that something we could get a proposed plan to you showing the area? So we have an agreement on the location and then that can be closed out and then that work will be done in the spring. Is that something the commission could entertain?
I think some of these, if we agree to something like that, we usually get some sort of surety as something that
Okay.
that would get done.
Okay.
So maybe
Okay.
take a look at that.
I can discuss with them. And Jen, is that something we can discuss offline, what the surety and what that might require?
Yes, I mean, and if, I mean, you know, I know partials aren't what people are looking for, but that's another path also.
Right, okay. Yeah,
All right.
I can discuss that with the owners and we can follow up with you, Jen, and then so in that case, would this then be on the November 4th hearing then for further discussion, depending on where that be the next step here?
So technically, I think you got the gist of the commission and Jen has it. So Jen can issue that certificate of compliance.
Okay.
As long as everything's pulled together. So
Okay.
I just get all that in and see if she can feed that information out to us.
Okay.
All right.
All right, excellent. I appreciate the time, everybody. Jen, thank you for your help on this one. I know it's been a long one.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
Night. Do we still have anybody in the waiting room? Do we forget anybody that wanted to?
I'm not certain if anybody had any comments or if they were following along.
You had mentioned to me at one point you thought one of the scouts or something was
I
there.
thought, but he's no longer on.
Okay.
So guess the only other thing I was hoping to vote with the minutes.
Yep.
For 9/23/24,
Yes.
I'd make a motion to accept those as written.
And I would second
Do we
that
have to vote though
motion.
on those?
Yeah,
Yes.
the minutes we do. And that, so
Okay.
it's a motion by Richard, second by Brendan, Eric
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great job, Josh.
Yes.
So it is almost 9 o'clock. One of the quick things I just wanted to mention was, the Mount Hope Improvement Society has their annual fall event on, when is it, Brendan? The 19th. And they were hoping to possibly run a hayride like they have in the past that would leave from Mount Hope and it would go down into the Crosby property into Appleton Field and loop back. And we've been doing that for a few years. It's conservation property and looking for the okay from the commission.
Absolutely.
Little conflict here because both Brendan and I serve on the Mount Hope board, but I think it's something that's going on. I think it's more if Jen and Josh agree, we'll be okay. But just want everybody to know.
For what it's worth, I agree.
Thank you. And Eric's involved in the field. So Eric, what do you think?
I gotta say, I don't know. I really hold everyone to account on this one.
You're breaking up. You're breaking up.
It sounds
Yeah,
like a
two
fun
thumbs
way
up
to
from
see
me.
the site.
That's right.
It does.
Do we
That's
get
right.
free rides?
You could. Well, that's a conflict. Well, they're under the cost of the ride is under $10, so I think you're okay. Yep, I think you're good. You can even get a
It's
burger.
going to a good cause.
You could even
Yeah,
get a burger.
There you go.
All right. Anything else, Jen, you wanted to bring before the commission tonight, or can we call it a
I'm
night?
good. I'm good.
All right. I'll take a
I make
motion.
Motion to adjourn.
That's Richard. How about a second?
I will second that.
Eric
I approve.
Thank goodness.
and Frank, yes. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Yeah, everyone.
Night.
Night.